What's up, YouTube? This is Nate Post with The Thankful Post, and today we are going to finally take apart this knife and see what we can do as far as modifying the looks of this G10. So to start, I'm going to take the clip off just so this lays a little bit flatter. It's the other side that I'm really interested in today. But laying flat will help prevent scratching up my wife's lovely live edge table underneath. Have a little plastic tray off to the side to keep all the bits in, because this project may take a little bit longer than one day. We don't want to lose anything. So this is my first time taking apart this knife, so bear with me as we're learning here. I'm sure some of you out there are like, what are you doing starting with the small ones? You should start with the blade, or vice versa. So we're learning together today, okay? So this looks like the only other thing really trying to hold it together. Man, this is a little stiff, but it's starting to come. Well, it's spinning at least. I can see the blade loosening up. Okay, let's look at this. Looks like they have a little bit of thread sealant on it, if you can see that in the video. Cool. So we got that out. And then bang! All those little screws, they had thread sealant as well. Put those in our little tote. Got a little bit of oil here. We'll clean that up. And that came right off. Then inside here, this was the hard stop for here. We'll put that in later. We have our little plastic washer. I'm going to try and leave some of this oil because I think that's helping it spin so nicely. But let's take a look at everything. And we got the other washer down here. Cool. So we'll put this back on for right now. Keep it all there. We'll put the pin back in later. We got this. We'll go right there for now. And we'll let this one sit out of the way. So the next thing we need to do is clean this up, and then we're going to try dyeing it. So hang out. All right, everyone. So here's our setup. Got a pot from the local thrift store. It was $2, and this is going to be sacrificial. We'll never cook in this again. Today we're going to be putting in some of this Rit Dye, and off camera ended up being wiping this down with some acetone. So got it all nice and clean, made sure we had gloves on, and just wiped it down, take off all that oil and stuff. So we have our pot that we're trying to bring up to temperature, just below a boil. I think it's around 200 degrees, don't quote me there, is what we're aiming for. Then we have a bucket of water. This is stainless steel, another thrift store item, no intent using it for food, and so we'll use this as a kind of a quench tank to cool it off. And then have some dollar stainless steel tongs that we'll be using for all sorts of other projects in the future, I'm sure. So right now we're trying to bring this up to temp. I've seen people use this method, and then this method also with acetone for dyeing plastics. The interesting thing is going to be is that this is G10, so I'm curious. I didn't do any research to see who has or hasn't successfully dyed G10, so this will be interesting to see how this goes. So as this is coming up to temp, This is almost empty, so I am just gonna freehand it. We're just going black, and I'm gonna go for it. Got all that was left in there. It was probably about a few capfuls, and we got it cooking. And we also have, I can't remember if I showed you or not, we just got a drying plate, you know, paper towel, paper plate. We'll put the parts on after they've been, the part on after it's been cooled off. And I've seen people do this with plastic, and they're doing 5 minutes, we'll say, is the ballpark where they're aiming. So we'll put the part in, we'll check it, you know, a couple minutes in, see how it's doing, let it go for 5, see if that's enough, see if it's taking, and then just kind of go from there. Because this might not take at all. Stirring it up. It's giving me a false sense of hope right now. See if this works out. You don't know unless you try, right? I saw someone on YouTube dye some AR mags purple, and I was like, okay, that's awesome, very creative, and if that works, we gotta try this. And I'll put a link to his video in the description, because really he's the one, his video gave me the idea for this. Okay, in we go. And we're gonna let this cook, like I said, for 5 minutes, and then we'll see what it's looking like after that. All right, we're 5 minutes into this, and I've added a little bit more dye to help darken it up because it wasn't really taken very well. And I'm also going to try and leave these tongs on here as much as possible, because this nice flat object with these nice rounded end tongs is not easy to fish out of the bottom of here, especially when it's just so dark in there you can't really see what you're fishing for. So it's actually starting to take pretty well, but you still see some faint hints of the brown color in there. So we're going to let it go for another 5 minutes and then check on it. So hang tight, let's see how this looks. Okay, we've been in for about another 5 minutes, so we're getting the quench bucket, cooling bucket into place. I kind of cheated. Fishing for this thing is a pain in the butt, so I got it already on the tongs, so y'all didn't have to watch me for 5 minutes fumbling trying to get this thing out of here again. So trip it off and right in. Sit in there for just a minute. Looks like it's trying to take, but it hasn't fully taken yet. Let's put it on the and that looks like black Kershaw knife scale. I'm not seeing anything really rub off. Looks pretty nice. think for a first attempt that'll work. Alright, sweet. So we got this all back from our cooking session downstairs. Did have to use some additional Rit Dye. I only had the powder available, so we just added some powder to it, and then just kept baking this in that really warm water. I think the total time ended up being somewhere between the 10 and 15's an overstatement. Probably the 10 to 13 minute time frame is for where we were. Did that water rinse cool that y'all saw, then towel dry. It's a little wet here from oil from trying to mock this up. This is my first time disassembling and reassembling a folding knife and trying to actually make it work, and the goal is maybe to gift this to a friend or family member when we're done. So got all this mocked up again. This pin right here was actually kind of a pain to get lined up just right, so I'm going to see if where you guys are in the camera and where I'm at, if we can get this thing started without having to lift it up, so I can keep that pin where it is. So we got this one started. Going in relatively nicely. And we got these little screws here, these 3 little Phillips. There you go. Perfect. So these are all starting out pretty nice. Give them a good torque. Sweet. Yeah, that blade's still way loose, so what you need to do is keep tightening this down. See how that feels. That's a little too snug. Back it off a skosh. Yeah, that feels great now. Okay. Then get this clip back on the back. Love that little Emerson logo. That one a little loose, we'll get the next one back out. Nice. Look at that. I think that looks so much better. I know some people are probably like, oh, I love the brown. But for me, this black looks just so simple, clean. It's the way they should have offered it for someone who has the taste that I have this is all just aesthetics, right? No function. What I would like to do in the future, should we take on another folding knife project, is I'd like to get into understanding how to change these out. This just had some nylon spacers or bushings for the rotation. I'd like to see about trying like bronze, trying different types of bearings. And then I've seen a lot of people change out all sorts of different hardware and spacers for titanium. You can get all sorts of colors and effects. So I think it'd be really neat to try and make some scales in the future, as well as swapping out some hardware. For this one, I said we might go carbon fiber. I'm just so pleased with it. Don't really feel like jacking this up too far on the first knife, second video on YouTube. So I'm gonna call it good here. Probably get a few more beauty shots of it, and then it's going to be on to the next build, next thing we're playing with. Let me know what you guys have been working on, and if you've been using the Rit or Rit, however you say it, Dye for any of your projects around the house, for anything you're working on, let me know what they are. If you have a video on what you've done with the dye, feel free to send it my way. Shoot a links in the comment to your video. I'd love to see, get some ideas maybe for our next up and coming project. I know we do have a bicycle or two laying around that we got during the pandemic on an auction from a local police auction. So maybe we can use some more dye features in those, or just some of the, process the thoughts. So hang in there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.